my team and my focus of our mission is to continue working on the clean water projects, continue working on helping the widows and orphans, because there's so many that need help. How I ended up in Pakistan is kind of the next, there's one kind of piece of the puzzle. So I went to New York to pursue my music business dream, trying to get a record deal. Yeah, from Panama City, Florida. So I moved out and stayed on a place on Long Island. Responsibility we have. And when you think about the Holy Quran and what it says about animals, and unfortunately there's a lot of misconceptions here, but people don't even, there's people that I talk to, educated people, who don't even know that dogs came from wolves. I had an argument with a guy the other day. He said, that isn't true. I'm like, dude.
वेलकम टू ख्याली डायलॉग। हमारे आज के गेस्ट एक ह्यूमैनिटेरियन हैं और पाकिस्तान में बहुत सी रिलीफ एफर्ट्स कर रहे हैं। इसके अलावा एनिमल शेल्टर भी इन्होंने खोला है और एनिमल रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन, एनिमल एम्बुलेंस का इन्होंने काम स्टार्ट किया है। इसके अलावा भी बहुत चीज़ें कर रहे हैं। इनसे गप्स लगाते हैं। इनका नाम है Todd Shea. Hello, Todd.
Hey, Salman. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Welcome, Todd.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
So let's start with, what are you doing right now these days?
Well, it's really busy. I mean, we have just started finishing up some of our long-term flood relief projects from last year's floods, including building houses for APNA, the Pakistani American doctors, and for Mary Petroleum, places like Balochistan and Sindh. We have a new House of Blessings for widows and orphans that we're starting in Lahore. We have one in Pindi. We have one in Islamabad. We're getting ready to start one here. We have 4 animal shelters. One is in, it's more than animal shelter, actually. It's a trap, neuter, vaccinate, release center and animal rescue and welfare program. The first one we started about 2.5 years ago in Goldberg Greens, Islamabad. And then we opened up one in Skurdu and Karachi, and in just a couple weeks in November 2023, we'll open up in Lahore. We're building it right now. And we have our, it's small, but it's a national animal ambulance service.
And this is the first of its kind?
Yeah, the TNVR centers are the first of their kind ever in Pakistan. There's never been any
TNR is
like
trap, neuter, release.
Yeah, TNVR, trap, neuter, vaccinate,
release. Okay.
And then we also add an E at the end of it for educate, because we want to educate the communities where we're doing this in, to make them understand that this is not just for dogs or just for animal lovers. Mm-hmm. This is for the children of Pakistan. This is for the safe environment, for the reduction of rabies, bite cases. The suffering of animals is part of it, but the health of the community, the well-being of the community. Dogs bark all night long. There's too many on the roads. So with our program, if you love animals, you'll love us, because you'll see less suffering animals, and then there's more resources to go around for the smaller number of animals that are left behind to take care of them. People who hate animals or dogs, well, they'll love us too, because they'll see less animals.
Less animals.
So it's a win-win situation for everybody. It's win-win for the animals. And then all of these problems reduce. And they did this in Turkey. They tried shooting and poisoning. It never worked.
Yeah.
Scientifically, it doesn't work, because once you take out all the dogs in a certain area and it's empty,
it messes up the ecosystem.
Well, it's not even, yes, but at the same time, you have an empty area where there's no dogs for a while. Mm-hmm. The rats and mice population comes up, but eventually more dogs just come in and fill in from the periphery. They find new territory. And those dogs, people don't think about this. Governments that shoot dogs, they don't think about this part. When dog behavior is that when they come into new territory, they're very aggressive.
Yeah.
And they're more likely to bite people. They don't know them. They're more likely to be a problem. So if you treat the dogs with the surgical procedure of neuter or spaying, then those dogs can't have any more babies. They're more docile. They're not going around biting people. They're safe dogs, and there's not going to be a problem. And they hold the territory, so that the new dogs won't come in, because they are still territorial and they have their place, and that keeps other dogs will get into a confrontation if a confrontation happens kind of almost by accident, but dogs will avoid a confrontation first. They'll see, oh, there's already a dog over there, so I'm going to go over here. So if you have dogs there, they'll wander off somewhere else. And there's a certain amount of dogs, too many for the society, but the dogs do very well eating human garbage and things like that. I mean, they don't live as long because the water is tainted, the food is unhygienic, so their livers and kidneys give out, and they have half the lifespan if they're even lucky to get that far out on the street. But if you have healthier animals, they can even be trained to be guard dogs for people. Dogs are useful. They're not these pests like pigs or jackals or these monkeys and stuff that come around. You can actually train these dogs to do stuff that is useful for the community. So it's a win-win situation. And then if the rats and mice population come up, then the truly deadly diseases that can kill thousands of people can come up. This happened in India when they did this. So there's a whole ecosystem thing about it. And so there are too many dogs in Pakistan. It's a problem on every street. But if we reduce the population like they did in Turkey, then it can be a really good balance. And these dogs, people don't realize how much of a responsibility we have. And when you think about the Holy Quran and what it says about animals, and unfortunately, there's a lot of misconceptions here. But people there's people that I talk to, educated people, who don't even know that dogs came from wolves. I had an argument with a guy the other day. He said, that isn't true. I'm like, dude, it is scientifically proven that dogs are simply the ancestors of wolves that we took in. And we made dogs out of them. We bred them the way we wanted. Some of them we bred because they were cute. Some because they were good hunters.
This was all the last couple hundred years mostly.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of the breeds.
A lot of the breeds now.
But it's been going on for thousands.
By the English Kennel Club, they were
absolutely
making all. So I'm so glad that you're passionate about this. I'm very passionate about animals, that you're doing this. But you've been here 18 years, and you started your journey with helping out people in when the earthquake happened and many more disasters like floods and stuff like that. So before we get to that, how did your journey begin? You were born in the States. Can you tell us what was your journey and what brought you to Pakistan?
Yeah, well, it was an unlikely journey, and it wasn't a planned journey. It was, I guess, destiny. I was just a everyday American kid. Grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, suburbs, boring place, in the world I was born in. And of course, just a few miles from the center that is everything evil about the world, just down the street, I figured out, I didn't know it at the time, but just an everyday normal kid, growing up, and when I was about 10 years old, I got really interested in music, and I remember my mom took me to see Elton John, one of my first concerts, and the Bee Gees. Then I liked Kiss, so she took me to see Kiss. So that was like the beginnings of my
very cool mom, I must say.
She was very cool, so yeah, we got to see these concerts, and I was very close to my mother, and I wanted to learn how to play guitar, and I was about almost 12 years old, and so she bought me a guitar, and then she put it in the closet, and to give me at Christmas a few months later. Unfortunately, a month before Christmas, she passed away. She died of she took a bunch of pills of Valium after my father and her were fighting, and he wanted a divorce, and that really, upset her mentally, and in desperation, she took this bottle, which, destroyed, all of our lives. But this is what happened. And from that, a month later after she died, I got that guitar. And with that guitar, it was what got me through a lot of tough times as a kid, because I was basically an orphan, because I wasn't close with my dad. I didn't appreciate or respect him after what happened, and I lost my mother, who I was close to. So I kind of took solace in the guitar, and I didn't go to school half the time, more than half the time. So that guitar became everything to me. And I got a second gift which was a Rand McNally Atlas of the World, a book full of maps because I was interested in maps and things like that. So, and there's another interesting story about my destiny that came from that that I'll tell later. But with the music, I eventually got into bands, and it was good in the sense that I started getting really good at guitar and getting into bands and being sought after as a guitar player and having a lot of friends. But at the same time, I was still grieving my mother's death. I still wasn't together, and I'd never gotten any counseling or help except for the music, right? So I ended up into the drug scene and got heavily addicted to cocaine.
And you were still a teenager at the time.
Yeah, from the years of 13 to 19, so about 5-6 years. I failed ninth grade 3 times. So I was in ninth grade in high school. Then this next year I was in ninth grade again, which would have been my 10th grade year. Then I was in ninth grade again, starting what would have been my 11th grade year. And I got in trouble for fighting and drugs. And I got sent to a place out in the mountains, kind of a reform camp kind of thing, where you got to do a lot of camping and hiking. And it was where they sent you if they thought that maybe you had a chance. Like they didn't send you to the actual jail, the lockup.
Like juvenile detention.
Yeah, so they sent you, some of the kids they sent, and so I guess they recognized that my problem was not processing the grief from my mother's death, and so they had counselors out there, and we hiking. There I made up 3 grades and came back and graduated on time.
Wow, so that place did help you.
It helped me a lot. Not fully, but yeah, it did help me a lot. But unfortunately, again, I got into the same crowd was there, and I was in the rock band scene, and I got it for free. The cocaine was always around, and I partook of it too much. There was a few times where I think only God saved me because I thought my heart was going to explode. I'd overdosed, and lucky for me, I didn't go the way I saw several of my friends go, which is either have a car accident where they got killed or killed somebody, or they went to jail, or they committed suicide or overdosed or something. So a lot of my friends at that time, that's happened with a lot of them. And so I was heading in that direction. And a couple people said, hey, you're a heck of a guitar player. Why don't you go to LA and try to join try to find a gig with LA bands or something? And I thought about it, and I really, part of me wanted to do it, but then I said, because I'd already kind of identified that I am not going to be able to quit cocaine. I am hopelessly addicted. When I try to stop, I would fall off the wagon and I'd go back into it again. And it was just like, I realized that I needed help, or I needed to do something drastic. So the only thing I could think of, not having a lot of money to go to a fancy schmancy drug rehab, I said, oh man, I'll join the United States Marine Corps. Yeah, that's a great idea. Join the Marine Corps, and I'll go into boot camp, and it'll be impossible for me to get it there, right? Not possible, which was true. I went in there, but they play a little trick on you in the Marine Corps. So I did everything to get the drugs out of my system for like a month before I went in. So I didn't do it. And it was really hard for me to do that, but I knew this was my last chance. So I really fought through the addiction and everything. I took the test for drugs they take your urine and blood sample. And so then they put you on an airplane on the day that you actually go to boot camp. You go to boot camp in South Carolina. We landed in Charleston, South Carolina. And from the airplane, you're supposed to get on the bus and go to Parris Island where the training starts. And there they did a surprise second test. Oh. And the night before, I had thought that I'd taken the test. So on my last night as a free man, my friends had a little K2 mountain of cocaine on the table. God, okay. Hey, Todd, hey, let's have a good time, and I did. And so that cocaine was fresh in my system. So I'm about a little over a month into boot camp. I'm starting to feel good and strong. I finally got over the initial shock of withdrawal while going through boot camp training of Marine Corps, which I wouldn't recommend anybody go that route because it was tough. But I'm there for enough time to where I thought I'm safe now. The test must have been a bluff, or they didn't really process it or whatever.
All right, so you go to boot camp, and you've done a whole mountain of cocaine the night before. You get there, they do like a surprise drug test.
Yeah,
and you turn out positive.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did the test, and I was a little freaked out. I was like, oh no, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure what to do. At that point, I'm like, okay, maybe something will happen that I won't. Maybe it's a bluff, right? So get into the training, and I'm there for over a month, and I think I'm safe now, and I'm starting to feel stronger and better, and getting the clouds out of my head, the drugs withdrawal and all that stuff, and I was really, feeling like I was, on my way to becoming a Marine and going in that lifestyle, and that's where I had committed to, and but then one night I'm in the platoon hall with all the other, 50 other recruits, and it was about, everybody gets up about 5 a.m. So it was about 4 a.m. and one of the drill instructors came and woke me up and said, "Private Shea, pack your trash and come with me. You got to go before the company commander." And I said, "What's this all about?" And I wasn't sure, and I wanted to think it must be, maybe it's something, else, trying to fool yourself. 19-year-old kid, right? Stupid kid. Go before him, and he goes, "Private Shea, you know anything about cocaine?" I said, "Sir, no, sir." He goes, "I think you do." And so basically got kicked out. I thought I was going to jail. I thought that they would, throw you in jail or something like that. But, they put me on a bus ride home. And so I was kind of depressed about that. But then after that, I said, okay, what do I do with my life? And I went back to music, but I started playing country and Southern rock, and joined a band that was more of a family atmosphere. They weren't drinking or drugging. And I thought it was a good place for me to, to go in a different direction of music and try something new and be in a cleaner environment and make money. And it ended up working out really good. I played with that band called Southern Rain for 4 years. The singer was named Benny Dean. He was blind, taught me a lot about music. And he had a heck of a voice. He did all that old country stuff, George Jones and Conway Twitty and Hank Williams Jr. and Hank Williams Sr. And I did the young country. I did the Southern rock like Leonard Skinner and some of the Garth Brooks and so we kind of had a really good mix. And we were popular in the D.C., Maryland area. We opened up for a lot of big stars, like I mentioned before to you when we talked about
Waylon Jennings, yeah.
And so many. I could just keep naming them off. We opened up for a lot. We played at the White House a couple times. I think it was the last year of Bush Sr., last year of Ronald Reagan, first year of Bush Sr.
So early 80s.
Yeah. It was like 88, 89.
Late 80s.
88 and 89, yeah. And so... we did a lot of exciting things. We played on an aircraft carrier once, and all these things. We did a show with Bob Hope, who was, a lot of people in Pakistan probably wouldn't know who he is, but he's an iconic entertainer from the 40s and 50s and 60s, and was very old at that point, but he was Bob Hope, one of the biggest entertainers of the world. So got to do a lot of cool things for a local band. But after being with them for about 4 years, I wanted to branch out and see what I could do as a solo artist. So I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I wrote songs for a music publishing company. I played at Mickey Gillies' famous club on Music Row, was the house band lead guitar player there for a good while. And in Nashville, everybody's a great guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they all come, and so every night, there was 10 guitar players in the audience that wanted my job. So I had to really try to stay on my toes. And but I had a wonderful time in Nashville. But while I was in Nashville writing, I was also going through a bit of a divorce kind of situation where I had a little baby boy. So every month I would go up to Washington, D.C. and get Justin, who's now 33, at the time. He was a little baby, and I'd have him for a month, then I'd take him back for a month. And his mom and I became good friends. But basically, she just didn't like me in the music business, traveling and all that, and that's where it basically ended our relationship. But we cooperated. So I had the baby sometimes, and then that my music career led me to some offers to play guitar on the road with some big stars like Randy Travis and some other. But I turned it down because I wouldn't have been able to see my little baby boy for
Family, yeah.
6 months or more on the road. So I didn't go that road. I stayed in Nashville and was there for about 4 years. And but I never really could. I was learning a lot about the music business. I was enjoying learning about songwriting. I was enjoying being in Nashville around these really cool people, studios, and playing this music. But when I started writing for my own, like every time I'd sit down to write, I'd have to force myself to try to write a country song because what I really wanted to write was more like Pink Floyd or Alice in Chains, right? So I was writing stuff that wasn't going to make it in Nashville, that's for sure. So I thought about it and I said, I think I want to go somewhere else. And I decided to go to Panama City, Florida, on the beach.
I took you there. I took you there.
So I just, I had an opportunity to play a couple shows down there from a booking agent. And I went down there and basically was actually the booking agent had booked me in South Carolina. And I was playing at some places out of the city, but I was looking to go to somewhere else. And there I met a guy who is also a musician who played on this gambling ship out of Panama City, Florida. And he said, man, you'd be perfect for that and you'll love it. He says, man, you can go out there, play for an hour and play for an hour back. But for 4 hours while they're out there gambling, you can just, chill out and write songs, do whatever you want. So I said, that sounds great. And it was good money. So they hired me on this guy's recommendation, not even heard me. So I literally had to buy a used car to drive from South Carolina to Florida to make it onto the boat the next day. So I drove all night and not even halfway through the journey, my head gasket blew in the car and water's leaking out all over the place and the engine was getting ready to blow up. So in order to get there, it took me an extra 10 hours to get there. I thought I'll get there and I'll get some sleep, then I'll get on the boat. So what ended up happening is every 20 miles I had to keep jugs of water and keep filling it up in the radiator to keep it going. And then it would start getting hot again and I'd have to put more water. So I nursed it there and I pull up to where the ship is. It's just getting ready to leave. They're saying all aboard, everybody on. And I come pulling up and a guy comes up to me and he starts waving at me. And first I thought he's saying hi, but he's like, hey. And I roll my window down. He goes, do you know that your car's on fire? So the back of the car was in flames.
Oh my goodness.
It was a used car that I bought and I didn't know, just to get there, I bought it for like $200, like something really cheap, and I should have known something when Rusty, the guy that sold me the car in Carolina, he was like, man, you love this car. It's AC blows cold, man. And that's the only thing he would tell me about the car. So the car was literally on fire. They had to call the fire department. They put the flames out. It was all on fire. I got my equipment out of the back seat real quick and I got it on the ship. They put the fire out. Anyway, long story short, I got there and I played and the guy, the manager of the boat, he loved my music. He loved it. He said, you're hired for the whole summer if you want it. He goes, and you made one hell of an entrance. You came in on flames. So that was quite an extraordinary experience. But I really had a good time there because that whole summer, I could see dolphins and sea turtles up on the top of the boat while everybody else is down there losing their money. I'd go out and I'd play music for people and they were all really happy thinking they're going to win. And then on the way back after they lost all their money gambling, I was the guy that was supposed to cheer them up, So I was supposed to play happy songs, right? So during that time, I ended up staying in Panama City 4 years. I started a Pink Floyd tribute band there. We did the whole Wall album live. And even building a wall in front of us, we used the movie Pink Floyd The Wall. We synchronized the drummer and the keyboard with the soundtrack of the movie so that we stayed on time and we played along with the movie. So we did cool stuff like that. Played at some clubs that had some big acts come, and it was a great time in my life. And I was writing my own stuff. So it was about 1998. I thought, where's my next move? I could stay here and play on this beach for the rest of my life, making good money, hanging out on the beach. And, my son came down and he was loving the beach. We'd go camping, go see the alligators, go see the dolphins, go to Disney World, which was a few hours away. It was a nice life. It was where I kind of got my head on my shoulders completely.
So how do you end up here in Pakistan?
So how I ended up in Pakistan is kind of the next. There's one kind of piece of the puzzle. So I went to New York to pursue my music business dream, trying to get a record deal.
From Panama City?
Yeah, from Panama City, Florida. So I moved out and stayed on a place on Long Island. And a friend of mine in Panama City had recommended a place that he knew. And I ended up getting a gig there and playing at this little restaurant while I put my band together and started playing in the city and in New York and all that. So I did that. And I met with Sid Bernstein, who was the guy who brought the Rolling Stones and the Beatles to America in the 60s.
Legend.
He was the guy, legend, music business legend. Jethro Tull. There's a bunch of bands he brought over. But of course, the Beatles and the Stones were the biggest ones. He was their promoter. And, he, because of his legendary status, even though by that time he was semi-retired, he was still so well known that he could pick up the call, call anybody, and they'd pick his call up from the music business.
He must have been really old at the time.
Yeah,
right?
he was in his 80s, late 80s at that time, and a beautiful human being. And we would sit and talk for hours, and he loved my music, and he wanted to do something for me, and so he helped put together a showcase at CBGB's world famous nightclub, where many bands got started in the punk scene and in
New York,
in the rock scene in New York. So he booked me on that and invited all of his music business friends. And so I had already had my band together by that time. I was getting magazine covers. I was having a following. I had a CD out, and was living
Things
the
were
dream
happening,
and looking like things were going to happen. So I'm living out on Long Island at the time. So I stayed in a hotel in New York for that big show, September 12th, 2001. So I came down on the 9th and the 10th or something. So the morning of September 11th, I get up, and when I got up that morning, I was supposed to go rehearse for the show at a studio and record some, and the next day we were going to have my big moment. And I was focused totally on fame, fortune, getting a record deal, doing all that stuff. And it looked like it was a good chance of it happening. Then that morning of the September 11th, I look out of the hotel window and I see one of the Twin Towers on fire. And then I see the other one explode in fire. I didn't actually see the plane hit because the angle I was at, it was behind the tower. When the second plane hit, I was at an angle where you wouldn't have been able to see it. I just saw it.
In the downtown?
Yeah, I was in Queens, but just across the river.
Okay, all right.
And I saw this whole thing happen in front of me, and I saw the second tower explode. And that's when everybody knew that this was not just some accident. Yeah. And actually, when I saw the first tower on fire, I knew that was no little. They were reporting on the news that they think a small plane may have hit. And I knew the size of the towers, and I knew that hole was not some little plane. If it would have been a little plane, it would have just bounced off the towers. Yeah. This is a jet aircraft. And so I right away wanted to help, right? So I ended up emptying my van of music equipment, got guitars and all the amps and stuff, sound system, and I drove down to Ground Zero to see if I could be of any help. I drove down, not to Ground Zero at first. I drove to Chelsea Piers, a couple miles north, where I'd heard they set up a disaster center. So I went in there. I went to the front of the line where there's a big line of volunteers. I said, "Is this the line I should go in if you have a vehicle?" And they said, "You have a vehicle?" I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I have a van." And they said, we were just looking for a vehicle. Just so happened we need to take a whole bunch of fruit, Gatorade, and water down to a fire company because they're all getting dehydrated. They're needing to rehydrate. So, they're in the towers, the firemen.
So your humanitarian journey began on September 11th.
Yeah.
Before that, you were completely focused on music, making it as a rock star, and that was your goal. Being a humanitarian and all of this was not even in your thoughts.
I had that one goal of making it big and being a rock star or whatever in music, making it in music. And that was my whole life's plan. When 9/11 happened, I went and ended up being a week that I worked down there until there was a day I realized that I wasn't needed anymore. The larger efforts had taken shape, and my lone wolfing it and doing the things I was doing was very helpful, especially in the first 3 days. But then after that, less and less until the fifth day, they had all the larger efforts take shape, and my role was just completed, and I could have stayed
Not
there
needed,
longer,
really,
but
yeah.
at that point I was just in the way. So I had set up in that 5 days with a couple other volunteers a kind of a convenience store, an outdoor convenience store at the corner of Church and Liberty, which was right at the southeast corner of where the towers fell. So the pile of rubble is all there, and we were right there with food, Gatorade, water, fruit, Visine, eye wash, bandages, dog food for the rescue dogs, socks and underwear, boots, you name it, anything that people needed, vitamins and energy
So
drinks.
after a week, you were there, you were done with it. Then what did you do once they said, okay, you're not needed anymore?
So
you
before
felt
I
that?
even left Ground Zero, something in me had deeply changed and deeply affected me to where I just kept over and over, not even trying to think it, but just feeling it, that this pursuit of fame and fortune in the music business just feels so shallow now. And it feels, for me, not for anyone else, I'm not putting anyone
You
else
found
down.
a greater purpose.
I found this purpose, and I realized I didn't have any aptitude. I never had any training in disaster relief or logistics in terms of disasters. So there was never any feeling that this just happened in front of me by fate, and I responded, and I ended up being able to do a lot of good as an individual, getting the people who are, because one thing I learned at Ground Zero that I would have never known before, even thought about, is that the people who are trained to go into burning buildings and collapsed buildings, if they don't have somebody backing them up in this type of situation with all the things they need, then they have to worry about getting it, and then they don't
They
focus
can't
on what
perform and do
yeah.
what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and they get tired easily, and they wasted effort. So the logistics, I saw what a big important part of the whole disaster system is. And the other thing is desire. Desire, in order to make it in the music business at that level, you have to truly have a desire to make it big. And I had that. But that evaporated along with the Twin Towers that day. That just
Something
went
really,
away.
really changed in you.
Really changed. So I started doing this disaster relief work. I went to Central America. I went to a couple hurricanes and things. So in 2005, I went to Hurricane Katrina, and just before that, the tsunami in Sri Lanka, volunteering with different groups as a volunteer. So to answer your question, how did I end up in Pakistan? It was the day I got back from Hurricane Katrina. I was there for about a month, and downtown New Orleans, and we rescued animals there. We rescued people. We worked with the U.S. Army. I had brought down 26 Zodiac special operations boats from Zodiac Company in Annapolis, Maryland, and used a truck from the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. So I had their truck, and I had to bring it back within a month. So when the deployment was over, I'm bringing that back, and I came to see my son at his home, and I came in the door, gave him a hug. We sat down. I brought a pizza. I hadn't been in the door for 5 minutes when we turned on the television and saw earthquake in Pakistan. So I was still in disaster relief mode from being at these other disasters.
The 2005 one.
Yes. And I was ready to go. So I made up my mind. I even told my son, I said, I'm going to go there. I'm going to Pakistan. So before I knew how I was getting there, who I was going with, any details, I knew I was going. And I'm one of those kind of people that decides to do something and then figures out if I should or can't. Like most people, they look at something like, can I do this? Should I do this? Maybe not, but I don't even do that. I just say, I'm going. And then I figure out the whole thing after that. So the first thing I did was literally minutes from seeing it on the news all over every channel. I called the Pakistan embassy. I just Googled the number. And I said, hey, I'm a disaster relief logistics person. I just came back from Katrina. I just came back from tsunami. I was at 9/11. If you need a logistics person on any team, I'd love to volunteer. I don't need any money. I just want to volunteer. And he says, well, there is a group of Pakistani American doctors that are going, and you might want to call them. Here's their number. So I called them, and sure enough, they had this big, mission going. APNA, the Association
first
of
contact with APNA.
Yes, the Association of Physicians of Pakistani descent of North America,
America,
and the Islamic Medical Association of North America were doing a mission with Pakistan Medical Association to bring doctors. So I joined up with the coordinator there and joined the group and got our tickets and our everything and went to Pakistan on a plane, and that was my first taste of even Pakistani Americans or Pakistanis or even Muslims. Like, before that moment, really, whatever I'd heard about Muslims or Pakistan was only from Fox News and CNN, and none of it was ever good, right? But by that time, I'd already had from 9/11 to seeing some other things go on in the United States with a friend of mine who was persecuted by a prosecutor named Elliot Spitzer, who later became the governor of New York and then was kicked out for corruption. He went after my friend unjustly. I saw that happen. So little by little, I started to not trust our government system like I'd always trusted them before. I always thought, wave the flag, America, they can do no wrong. Israel, is great, and why is everybody picking on them? And America. So that's how I was. And that's all I'd ever been exposed to. So I didn't hate Muslims, but I also didn't really know any. And I had never had Pakistani food. I didn't know the culture. So these Pakistani American doctors were the first of Pakistan, and then going on this disaster. So when I got on the plane, I'm thinking to myself, how will I even talk to people there? And I land in the plane in Pakistan. It's in the middle of the night. It's like 3:00 in the morning, and our flight on the helicopter wasn't scheduled till like 6 at first light or something. Yeah. So I'm at the plane, and these two guys come up in uniforms, and I got another guy named Jim to come with me who'd worked with me at Hurricane Katrina. He was an ex-Marine. I asked so many people to come with me and be a part of this, and they all said, "You're going to Pakistan." They're like, "You're going to Pakistan? They're going to kill you there."
And this is when it was really bad, 2005, the Taliban. And all
some of that was there still. And so they were like, after 9/11, it was a real fever pitch for a few years of negative feelings and even hatred for Muslims and Pakistan and all that. So a lot of them that I worked with were like, you're going into the belly of the beast. They're going to kill you. You're going to go there and you're not going to come back. So, get all your affairs.
Chopped up pieces.
Yeah. They're going to come back in pieces. So, basically manage all your affairs, and write your will
and everything.
Yeah. So, it was like that. And one guy said to me that, in fact, he was a brigadier general in the New York National Guard. He said to me, I think his name was Sid Baumgarten or something, Baumgartner. He said, "You're just going to go over there and you're going to help a bunch of kids. And those kids are going to grow up in 18, 20 years. They're going to come, the ones that you helped, they're going to come and hit us again, right? Yeah. They're going to come hit us again." And he goes, "So you shouldn't go." But, I kept saying to myself, I don't trust our government and our media because I've already seen, this Iraq war and all these things. Like, something's wrong with the messages we're getting in the media. Something doesn't feel right. So I already had that feeling. And I thought, wow, what better way to confirm if Pakistanis are such horrible people than to go there because of this earthquake and see for myself. And
how bad it really
forget
is.
About Fox News. Let me go myself and see. So I went there, and so I get off the plane, and I'm thinking I'm going to have a really tough time talking to anyone there, and I'm going to be in this place that probably looks like a desert, and maybe behind every tree, look and see if Osama bin Laden's lookalike is there waiting for me to hit me with a AK-47. And of course, it was nothing like that. Islamabad is a beautiful city. Nothing like what you think about. Nothing like what they show you on that show 24, garbage show. But anyway, we can get into all that. But basically, I come down the airplane on the tarmac, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, Hello, Todd, we've been waiting for you. In this accent that was better English than any American ever could think about speaking. Because we've destroyed the English language, right? Americans have torn it apart. We can't even speak our own language properly. Ask any Brit. So this guy is like talking to me, and I'm thinking, this guy is amazing. I mean, like he's
He knows my name.
well, I knew who we were going to go. They told me that we were going to be meeting some delegations, So when they came up to me and said my name, that didn't surprise me as much as his accent and his demeanor and the way that he greeted me and the warmth and the hospitality. And his name was Etezazessen. Senator Etezazessen.
Yeah.
So,
I met him. Yeah,
very dignified human being, lawyer and everything. So he took me to his house. Him and his wife Bushra fed me my first Pakistani meal. And I was like, oh my God, it's been 39 years of my life and I've never had this food. Now I know why the British tried to come here and take everything over. So I knew very little about Pakistan. So we get on the US Chinook double rotor helicopter. We get up there in the morning. We land in this devastated place. You could see death everywhere. You could see people with broken limbs and children hurt, and the doctors that I came with. We had unloaded all of our supplies, and it was like just a mountain of medicines and supplies that they dropped off. And so I started organizing it. But when I was getting off the helicopter, this young lieutenant in the Pakistan Army said, "Sir, may I take your bags?" Again, a young guy in a perfect British kind of almost dignified accent, not like in America, right? And so I was just blown away by this. And right there, just that alone, I said, there's something different about this place that most Americans would never think, they would never expect. So I was watching very carefully and seeing everything. And I met a lot of people, volunteers that came from Karachi. There was Pakistani doctors from all over the world that lived in other countries, UK and whatnot. And there was also some Goras that came with the groups and stuff. And I was just, it was really sad. You saw a lot of children hurting. And I was really busy trying to organize all the supplies. And I would go back on the helicopter and get more medicines and go back and forth, get all the supplies, get fuel for them, work with the Army. I had a Thuraya satellite phone. So I was a very popular guy because I was the only guy.
With a phone.
Yeah. So
with a working phone.
The Army had a communications network already set up, but almost nobody else that came had the satellite phone because you couldn't get signals up there. Yeah. People's regular cell phones just didn't work. So I was taking care of all those things, down to the tents and blankets and food and everything. And so we started working with the Army. They had a camp there at Gary Dupata, which is this boys' college that was totally destroyed. And they were using the cricket field, the football field for the helicopters. And we had our big green hospital tent with the operation theater in it. We had it set up there. So for the first few days, me and my partner Jim were just organizing medicines. Okay, here's where antibiotics go. Here's a box for pain medication. Here's injectables. Here's syrups. Here's this, here's that, right? So we started getting everything organized within a few days. And then it started rolling on real good. We were there for about 2 weeks. That team came for 2 weeks, and then they were getting ready to go back after 2 weeks. But we were seeing 600-700 patients a day. It was crazy. And even after 2 weeks, we still were getting people that had been so far away and had walked down and terrible injuries and gangrene and people suffering that had been suffering for a couple weeks, and so it was just an overwhelming experience. But at the same time, these mountains are so beautiful. The people were so beautiful and so appreciative and so hospitable, and the children and I was overwhelmed with Pakistan. And the food was, even a simple chicken fry with roti was like, I've gone to New York and dined in 5-star restaurants and didn't enjoy the food like this.
Wow, as you say, zabardast, huh?
So I did a little bit of research on you, and I know that you came here in 2005, and the surprising thing is that you never left. Now, you coming, and had you left, it would be a different story. You also accepted Islam in Pakistan, and you married, and you have a child here now. Wonderful. This is really incredible stuff. You've done enormous things for Pakistan, disaster relief, earthquakes, floods, all kind of things. with your disaster relief organization. You've also got a place where you take care of orphans and widows. What is that called?
House of Blessings
House
for
of
Widows and
Blessings.
Orphans.
And now the latest, this is a new thing with the animal shelter and rescue. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into that, and how does the ambulance service work? Where all is this? And when do you guys start in Lahore?
So, from that very beginning of the earthquake, we tried to help animals too. And I remember once it was in that village that we first arrived in, and we were living there in tents, and we had our hospital. And one day I was walking to a place where we had our washroom set up a little bit away from the camp. And I saw this little puppy alone by itself. And then I saw its mother with a couple other puppies way on the other side of the field. And he was kind of whimpering, sitting there in the mud. And I went over to him and I picked him up and I held him up. Oh, you're such a cute little
dog.
thing. Oh, you little puppy. And then I looked over and there was 6 guys sitting there drinking tea, sitting along the wall, looking at me like I was kissing a rat or something, right? They're like, oh my God, what is this guy, right? So we've always tried to help animals. And so, fell in love with Pakistan, but I saw animals suffering. So we always tried to do something for the animals. We would always pick them up on the side of the road and stuff. And we put some cages. When we find an injured animal, we would take care of it. But it was always on an informal basis. Mm-hmm. So about 5 years ago, I thought, let's start a program for animal welfare and let's try to make it a little bit more. And so whatever funds we could get together extra from animal lovers, because whenever we got funds from people, it was for our human projects. So I wasn't using those funds for animals. I would talk to people and tell them that, hey, could you send a little bit of money just for the animal project? And those that loved animals and those who wanted to do, they could send. So what we did was we would use that to help animals. And we started helping some rescuers that we saw doing great work who were struggling. Like there's a young lady here named Aniza Khan with Give Us Life Animal Welfare in Lahore. So we were helping her out and trying to, help her defray her costs of food and medicines, because it gets very expensive. Pick up a dog that's injured, and it's not just your fuel, but it's the vet bills and it's the food and it's the time.
The medicines, the surgery, the bandages,
everything.
The recovery, everything.
And then they always have fleas and parasites
ticks,
and other problems. So it's not, people don't realize, I think, how expensive it is just to eat even one animal. But we started doing that. So in the beginning of 2021, we started getting attention for our animal welfare work, which led to a partnership with a young lady, Sarah J.K., who is a great animal welfare activist and rescuer down in Karachi. So she introduced us to a donor, a Pakistani American who really loves animals, named Murtaza Hussain. And so he gave us a big grant. And with that big grant, we were able to really start some historic things in Pakistan, which is the very first national animal rescue service with ambulances for animals. And
where is this?
So we have 2 in Lahore, we have 1 in Faisalabad, we have 1 in Peshawar, Charsada, we have 2 in Pindi, and we have 2 in Karachi.
And these are all operational?
Yes.
And the ambulance service is in all of these cities?
Yes. It's attached, like the one in Charsada, Peshawar area, is attached with Lucky Animal Protection Shelter. That's a shelter we help them build. They have their own shelter.
So they are collaborated.
Yeah, we donated a lot of money to them to help them build their shelter, but they do their own thing, and they have their. We gave them the vehicle as a to help them. So there's that kind of thing. In Faisalabad, there's Tyra Animal Welfare Foundation, and they do a great job. And they just actually bought a new vehicle, so they gave us back the other vehicle to send to Lahore. So we've collaborated with them.
These are just dogs and cats?
Dogs, cats, horses, and donkeys. And then a few eagles, kites, and a few monkeys here and there. A couple crows we've saved. But mostly it's about dogs, and then cats, and then donkeys. And a few horses.
So when somebody calls you and that they have an animal outside, he's rabid or he's injured or whatnot, you send an ambulance, you send someone to take the dog away. You take care of the dog. Then you neuter it, and then you tag it, and then you put it back out.
Yeah, we crop their ears. There's an
crop
ear
their
cropping
ears, okay.
procedure.
Do you tag
But
them as well, or no?
We're going to start tagging. We are going to start doing that. So yes, this is what we do, and we established the very first in Pakistan's history Center for Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Release of stray animals, and to educate the public with public awareness campaigns as to why this is not just for animal lovers, why this is a public health initiative for Pakistan, why it will bring blessings to us from Allah, because we'll be doing it the right way. We'll be compassionate towards these animals that we're responsible for. You know, we're responsible for them because they were wolves, and we brought them in and made them dogs.
Absolutely.
So then if we domesticate them and their DNA is attached with us, but then we abandon them, well,
That's on us.
that's on us.
Yeah.
So as a society, whether you like dogs or not, if we're following Islam, then
Even if we're as human beings.
and human beings.
As human
But in
beings.
Islam, it specifically says these things. And of course, in other religions, the same
Yeah.
kind of thing is there.
But
So
it's
there's some
basic compassion.
yeah, and there's some misconceptions in Islam that are not in Islam, but in people's interpretation. You know, they say dogs are dirty. But if dogs are dirty, then why in the Quran does it say that
And why
dogs
did-
can fetch prey
Yeah.
for your hunting? If they're that dirty, then, you know, yes, you don't want a dog in the masjid drooling all over the place. But that's a whole different, you know, if you keep a dog and you keep it clean and you're looking after it and it's not out on the street,
It's your best friend.
then not only is it your best friend, but it's very clean.
Yeah.
They're only dirty and disgusting and mean
When
you
they're
keep them
dirty.
every day
Yeah.
and you abandon them.
And you let them live in dirt
Yes.
and eat dirt.
So part of this, we're never going to be able. We have that center since in Islamabad, Goldberg Greens. We started another one in Karachi. Have another one in Skurdu. Which Skurdu one is the very first MOU between a government district of Pakistan and an animal welfare NGO in Pakistan's history. So we're making a lot of history. We're the first animal welfare organization that has multiple facilities in multiple places. We are opening up one in Lahore early next month, just a couple weeks.
What does these centers do? I mean, what do they offer?
So we do.
Other than the ambulance service, what's the service?
Sure. So the animal service is not for pets. It's for strays and mostly injured animals. Because there's so many animals, we can't get them all. In fact, people are angry with us because you can only handle so much, right? We're here to set an example to the society, but our little program cannot help
Cater to
millions
every
of it.
dog out
Yeah, so
there,
people
yeah.
call us and our team is already out rescuing another animal, then they get mad at us because
you didn't come
they're
or-
selfish thinking and they're only thinking about themselves. They're not thinking, well, this team is working hard and they're on another case, so they can't get to me right away. And then they start abusing you online that you're not doing anything. You're eating money. This is one of the things that they
There's
love
only
to.
so much you can do.
Yeah,
right?
and I don't know what it is about some of the animal lovers here, but they hate human beings so much. And that's why they love animals so much, because they love them unconditionally, but they hate human beings. So we get a lot of abuse from people who need us. And when we can help them, we're the best thing since chicken biryani. But if we can't help them, then we are trashed online. So that's an unfortunate thing that happens. But as we grow, hopefully we'll be able to help more and more animals and do more. We've done a lot. We've helped over 20,000 domesticated animals, and over 20,000 during the floods. We fed 20,000 and gave veterinary services to another 20,000 animals. So 40,000 animals helped in last 2.5 years, 4 shelters, an ambulance service. And so we're doing some really good work. And we have a network of other rescuers and shelters that we've supported. And we want to keep this going. So anybody out there that hears this, we definitely need donations so that we can, every time somebody donates, then that's another extra animal we can help, because we're at max with what we've got with our budget.
With your resources
And if they want us to save more, then we need them to help us do some campaigns, do an event for us, if they have a rich uncle or something, or if they know some businessman. Not only animal lovers, but people who don't like animals really should support us, because they will be very happy when they see less animals on the street bothering them and barking all night long and menacing them when they go to Fajr prayer. Because dogs start acting like their ancestors of wolves when they're back out on the street, left to their own devices. They start packing up.
Yep.
There's a couple alpha males and whole hierarchy goes on. And they can be quite frightening. And they can be
Instinct
dangerous.
takes over, yeah.
Yeah, so this is what we're trying to do. And we want to set an example for others because we have these 4 facilities now, which is a lot for Pakistan in terms of any other organization. And we also work with, like in Lahore, Todd's Welfare Society, which is not related to me. It's a different Todd, but we work with them and we collaborate with them, and we're trying to work with the government and trying to show them what we're doing. So we're trying to set an example so that we would have at least one. It's called the Benji Project. So we would like a Benji Project for animal welfare and rescue in every district of Pakistan. So our goal is, very far-reaching. In order to do that, we're going to need, the government. We're going to need Malik Riaz, or somebody like that to come and help us do this thing
Malik
big.
Riaz,
Scale
if
it up.
you're listening, please help.
Yes, Malik Saab or anybody.
Generally, it's the general public who identify these animals to you?
So
or you have some practice or some survey that that where are the...
Well, unfortunately, they're all over. Unfortunately, any neighborhood you go, you're going to find lots of dogs and lots of animals. Almost, it's like an epidemic. Like everywhere you go, you'll find sick or injured animals or animals needing help. So it's not hard to find them.
So you have team which goes out and find out.
And they stay out all day. And then we call them. We on WhatsApp, we let them know we got a call. And can they go pick up this dog or kitten? Mm-hmm. And of course, again, sometimes we'll get 10 calls in an hour. And our team is out there rescuing and doing what it can. And you can't get them all because there's so many animals that need help. And but we're going through these growing pains. And it's a good problem to have because we're doing something. And it shows that people do need us and want us.
Well. And your something is growing.
Hopefully we'll grow to meet the need better. Because where we're at, the need is so incredibly much higher. And the funds are so much lower. The support for our work is not that good, so we have to really try to scrape by. But inshallah, with programs like this, hopefully we'll get more people to support the work we're doing. So we're very sincere. We're not doing anything wrong with the money. They can come and see all of our books. We have certification from Pakistan Center for Philanthropy, which rates an organization based on international best practices. We're audited by the FBR and taxes, and we're checked out by all the intelligence agencies for 18 years. And finally, they know I'm clean, and even the CIA in America probably checks me out because I'm this American in Pakistan. And what the hell's he doing there? Everybody wants to know, why am I here? But it's really
everybody wants to know who you're working for.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm working for Allah. I'm working for humanity. And it's all about insaniyat. And my 18 years track record has proven that. And Allah has blessed me with this gift of this beautiful Pakistani wife and baby boy, Muhammad Sultan, who is the joy of my life. A great team of 100 wonderful employees. I can't ask for better. There's a purpose. There is a beautiful country. There's problems here in Pakistan. But at the same time, people in Pakistan don't understand or appreciate just how magical this country is. Because maybe they're thinking that someplace the grass is green on the other side, right? Greener. And yeah, there's beautiful places and there's places where maybe you can make more money. But, Pakistan has a soul. It has a heart. It has beautiful people. It has amazing Zabardast Mazadar Khana. It has the biggest mountains, on the planet. And, it's just a magical place. And I've really enjoyed my time here. And the people have been appreciative. So I literally could save penguins and whales in Antarctica if I wanted to. I can go anywhere on the planet. Nothing's stopping me. I've been to Japan. I've been to the Bangladesh Rohingya camps. I've been to Haiti. I've been to other places. But basically, this is where I wanted to stay.
So, Todd, we've talked about animals. We've talked about disaster relief. We've talked about your beginnings. But you still are a musician, and that can never go away. So tell us, what are you doing? How are you still pursuing music? And what are some of the things you're doing? And what are some of the things you want to do?
Well, with music, because I'm so busy and there's been so many disasters and the work, the relief work takes precedence, I've different times worked with different musicians and they all get frustrated with me and get mad at me because I don't have time to concentrate on it, right? But I dabble in it. I have fun with it. And I still play music a lot of times at our fundraisers. I'll get the guitar out and I'll play Dil Dil Pakistan or a cover of, Jal Band or something, Gaur Mumtaz's Adat. and different things that I'll pull out of the hat, and people always love to see a Gora at least trying, and then I'll do some of my own music. So we're still doing music all the time. There's a guy from Lahore. He's based in U.S. now, but he's from Lahore. Junaid Yunus. He's been on Coke Studio. He emceed the Nobel Prize Awards when Malala got her award. Like, he's done cool stuff. And when I'm in States, he does some shows with me, and we did a song for the relief work, and there's a video that's out, and we're just finishing with another young artist, Adil Latif, where it's a song about animal welfare and about compassion for the animals. That's getting ready to come out. Then there's a song I recorded. I didn't record it myself, but produced it with Sarmad Ghafoor, who did the music for the movie Malajat. He was with Atif Aslam for 10 years. He was with Umair Jaswal, and they still work together. He's a great producer. He's like Zulfi, but maybe not as well known in the background more, but he is an amazing producer, world class.
Coming from you, I'm sure.
When you're in LA, you will not find a guy that can do all that he can do. He can do everything. You'll find guys in LA that are really good at this or really good at that. He can engineer, he can mix, he can play the guitar.
Sarmad Ghafoor.
He can write songs. Sarmad Ghafoor, we call him Sam. And he's just a spectacular guy. So we recorded a song with him, with Karatalin Baloch, who's a very dear sister, friend of mine for many, many years. Even before she was famous, we were friends. And I helped her actually get started in music. So then we did a song with her and Wahab Bugti from Balochistan. So we did a collaboration with them. And then I just finished a song that I wrote that has nothing to do with the relief work. It's a song called Tiny People. And it's about people who misuse their power. It's about psychopaths. And it's, tiny people, not meaning little people, but small-hearted people.
Yeah.
And psychopaths. So that'll be an interesting song. When you hear it, you might enjoy that. And appropriate for the world that we live in today, because there's a lot of psychopaths running around, doing things that they shouldn't do, that only benefit them and nobody else. So, yeah, still doing music whenever I have time.
How did you come across with your wife here in Pakistan?
So it was kind of interesting.
And are you still a U.S. citizen, or you are a Pakistan national?
I'm still a U.S. citizen. And what happened was I was in U.S. and doing a fundraising tour when COVID hit. So COVID hits, and all my fundraisers get canceled, and I can't get a flight back to Pakistan. So I'm sitting there, and it took 4 months to get a flight, to even get to Pakistan in 2020. I think March, April, May, June. Yeah, it took 4 months. So I'm sitting there, isolated by myself. You can't go out anywhere. They had everything shut down. You could go to the grocery store and the bank once a week, where I was at. That's kind of, and so I'm sitting there, and because of the internet, thanks goodness, internet and phone, I could talk to my donors, and I could talk to my team that was working on, in fact, with APNA, we were doing a lot of distribution of food all over Pakistan for people that had lost their jobs because of COVID.
During the COVID. Okay.
Yes. So for a couple of years, we did that mission with APNA. And so during those 4 months, I actually had time to catch up on a lot of stuff that I was behind on, You get busy. And so I got paperwork and financial stuff and was able to catch up. But also during that time being alone, I kept thinking of this girl that I met. And I'd met her about 6 months before this time, 7 months. So it was, I think it was September 2019. I was asked by one of my employees, Abed, who's been with me since the earthquake. He was a kid on the earthquake zone. Now he's my director of operations. And taught him whatever I knew about logistics, and he does an amazing job. So he said, listen, my uncle, he wants to invite you to Radio Pakistan to do an interview and talk about your work. So I was like, I'm so busy. I really don't think I. So, and this is back before COVID, back in 2019. So I said, okay, I went and did the interview. There was this young lady there who was working in the accounts department, and she was given the task of taking us around, getting us tea, and hosting us and looking after us. So I remember walking out of there and saying to my employee, Abed. I said, man, that young lady is going to make an amazing wife to somebody someday.
All right.
You know, but I forgot about it, right? I didn't think about it. But COVID happened, and I'm sitting there for 4 months, and I couldn't get this girl off my mind. I found myself thinking about her. So I called, who is now an employee of mine, who works with me, this musician who just did a song with us for the animal welfare, Adil. He was doing the radio show that day when I met Fozia. So I called him up. Well, actually, I buzzed him on Facebook Messenger. And I said, you know that young lady that was looking after us? And he said, oh yeah. I said, I don't even know her name. What's her name? Because I didn't know her name. I couldn't remember it. He said, it's Fozia. And I said, you know, do you happen to have her number? Because I want to book more radio shows.
Yeah.
So he gave me her WhatsApp number. So I WhatsApped her and I said, hey, I'm Todd. I'm the American Gora who, was at Radio Pakistan about 7-8 months ago. And how you doing? So she wrote me back, who are you? And I said, I was at I did the radio program and you gave us tea and you gave us a tour of the place and the museum that they have there and all that. Oh, yeah, I remember you. What do you want? And I said, well, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm in US, it's COVID. I was just thinking about you and thought that maybe when I come back, you really impressed me. Maybe we could meet for coffee or something. And she sent back a heart emoji.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, well, what I thought was like 1% chance just turned a little bit higher.
That's the green signal.
Yeah. So for about a good month, we started talking and FaceTiming on Facebook like every day, talking and blah, blah, blah. So it turns out, lucky for me, that, and not so lucky for her father had gotten cancer a couple years ago. He had leg cancer, and they were thinking about amputating it. So for almost 2 years, Fozia, at this ripe age for getting married, had so many proposals. But she stayed at the hospital for almost 2 years taking care of her father to save him from cancer. And she was the youngest in the family. And she would go there and stay with him and stay the night, change his bandages, get his medicine. And she was focused on that. So by my luck, she didn't find a husband yet. She took her, when her father got out of the hospital, she paid for them and her to go to Hajj. And her family is elderly. They're from, father's from Sheikhupura, mother is from Hafizabad. So basically she just is from this village, right? And just very loyal person and good person, taking care of her father. And so fast forward to the time that I met her, she had gone to Hajj and gone back to work. And she said that her parents, one of the main things they did when they went for Hajj is praying for her to find a husband. And I said to her, I bet they never thought that their prayers would be answered in the form of this this old American Gora. But it was just really strange because she said, it was almost like God made this happen where it couldn't have happened otherwise, because we talked for a month and we decided we wanted to get married. But she said, not until you come back and my parents meet you. If they say yes, then I'll marry you. If they say no, then I will not marry you. She was very cut and dry about it. So I came back, we met, we liked each other. It all just was working out. Her parents came and met me. And before they even left that day, she said, they like you. They like you. So we got married 2 months later from my flight back. We within a month of meeting her parents even, we got married. It was during COVID, so we couldn't have a big hall. We did it at the office, ceremony and everything. And then exactly 9 months later, little Muhammad Sultan was born on Eid Day.
Wow.
So it's almost like God has given me this tremendous, beautiful gift. And as far as being a Pakistani citizen, I'm not a Pakistani citizen, but my wife filed for me to have the Nadra Pakistani origin card that you're eligible for a spouse, right?
Yes.
So I have that NIC number and I have my little Pakistani card. Very proud of that.
You have a POC card.
Yeah, so I don't have to travel on visa and, basically have the benefits of citizenship. Yes. And we're just having our life. Fozia, before Radio Pakistan, she worked for GIZ and some other NGOs, so she has NGO experience. So she started looking after the House of Blessings for Widows and Orphans project that we have.
Wow.
We have one in Pindi, and then we have Tyra, who's in Karachi running the project, and we're starting another one here. We just came from the place that we're going to be starting that program here.
Lahore.
So Fozia is working on that very diligently and busily, and in doing this for some time now, it's ended up she has this tremendous aptitude, talent, and desire to do this, and she's been so good with the mothers and children, and so we're just have our little family, and we travel around together doing the relief work together, and I hope that God gives me a few more years so I can keep helping more people, more animals,
inshallah.
and enjoying seeing Muhammad Sultan grow into a man, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And, it's really strange. The first time that Muhammad Sultan met his elder brother Justin, when Justin came over to do a mission up in the mountains of Gilgit-Baltistan, the flash flood emergency mission, because my son is a very now seasoned disaster relief worker as well, and done a lot of missions in Pakistan as well as in Philippines and in America and here. So when Muhammad Sultan and him met, the baby had this connection with him that he just innately knew that that's his brother.
That's the blood.
His brother Justin, he felt it, he knew it, and I never seen him react or respond to anyone else that ever came. And a lot of employees are like his uncles, and he loves them. But when Justin came, it was like, okay, this is my brother. It's really fascinating to see how that happens.
Blood speaks.
Yeah.
Blood is thicker than water.
Yeah, and a little baby even can pick up on it. I'm thankful to Allah for everything He's given me and the purpose He's giving me, and I'm honored to serve Pakistan. It's a beautiful, magical country, and there's problems here, but all it really needs, all the resources are here. Individual brilliance needs to turn into a success through teamwork. So teamwork is what I tell the young people all the time, that what Pakistan needs is teamwork.
What do you envision for the future of Pakistan in all of this disaster relief, in animal shelter, in all of your projects? What is your vision, and ultimately, what do you want to see?
There's a lot of environmental issues. There's a lot of challenges with clean drinking water and hygiene and the disposal, the proper recycling and disposal of garbage, things that need a lot of work. So there's big challenges, especially with climate change and things like that. So the population keeps increasing, and there's a lot of work to be done. So my team and my focus of our mission is to continue working on the clean water projects, continue working on helping the widows and orphans, because there's so many that need help. There's also other, we're also doing some of our House of Blessings work for differently abled children and families. We look after some of that situation. Transgender community, other minority communities, people that are marginalized, and then just your general Muslim population who's just very poor and in difficult environment. So we'll keep the disaster relief things going when needed, but we want to focus on the House of Blessings project, growing it more, helping more communities through that program, because that program provides a home and a setting where people can work on themselves, get educated, they're fed, and it's not an institutional environment, it's a home environment. So it's an environment of love, nurturing, and also bringing in successful people to mentor. There's a whole thing behind it, and that we want to do more of. So the vision is to scale these projects up, scale up the animal welfare stuff. We also build schools. We have a couple medical centers and things that we do, around the country, and we work all over the country. We just want to grow and do what we're doing now, but just do it in more places in a bigger way. So that's our focus.
So it's also educating people in Pakistan about all of these things, and also
because we want partners and donors within Pakistan. Because I don't know when the U.S. government is going to do something stupid, and there's going to be a problem where they're going to say, well, you're not allowed to send money anymore from U.S.,
funds.
which is the lifeline. That's where the Pakistani American community, if that was somehow cut off, I would be, we have a few donors here, but we need to get more. So I want to be
The whole
more
Pakistan
self-sufficient
will go down.
within the country.
The whole Pakistan will go down if they stop sending payments.
Pakistan, one thing I've learned about Pakistan is it's, they're resilient, and they if something bad happens here, they adapt. They find a way. Do you remember that show MacGyver?
Oh, yeah.
So MacGyver, he's this white guy, and I've never met a white guy like that except for MacGyver. I think they must have gone to Pakistan because he could fix.
With a Swiss knife.
With a Swiss knife and a piece of duct tape and a rubber band and a toothpick, he could fix a car engine. Well, I've actually seen Pakistanis do stuff like that here. They are born engineers. And
we call it jugaad lagana.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So sometimes it's very funny to see some of the ways they do these things, but they work, right? And it's ingenious, and it's because the engineering mind is there, that aptitude that just fascinates me. So I think there's a lot of challenges here, but there's also a lot of talent here. And I think we just got to try to, work together as a team. And I think when I meet the young people of Pakistan, I see a tremendous hope in them. So as difficult as the challenges are that'll be faced, I think great nations are tested greatly. And I have faith in Allah, that whatever happens, we'll be able to get through it together. And I'm committed, and a lot of people are committed. And there's a lot of not only young people, but corporates and others that are plowing forward with very positive and very forward-thinking plans of things they want to do to make Pakistan better. So as long as these people are around, and as long as these beautiful children who are so brilliant and so talented and so hopeful are around, we've got to give it our best shot,
So you're doing all of this in Pakistan, and we were talking earlier about how ignorant most Americans are about Pakistan and what's going on here and about Islam. Are you doing anything to educate the general public in America about your experiences and about Pakistan, about Muslims, about any of that?
Well, I try wherever I can to speak about this, and I've talked to my personal friends and people I grew up with, and so on that scale I've been able to do it. But basically, I had one article in the New York Times about me in 2009, and that got me some attention from the U.S. government. They were working a lot with Greg Mortensen from 3 Cups of Tea, so they started.
But that turned out to be like a scam too.
Well,
right?
There was some problems. He was doing real work, but there were some problems in the way he was accounting things. There was some problems there, but at the same time,
the intention was good. The intention was not.
One of the biggest problems is that the book publisher that he went to, and he wrote his book with a ghostwriter or another writer. The publisher they said, this book is good, but in order to sell it, we need some stories that have a little bit more spice to them. So they spiced some things up, which ended up coming back to haunt him. His story was good without all that, but unfortunately, they did this, and then there was some financial irregularities that it wasn't like he wasn't doing any good work, but it was also that he wasn't accounting properly, and so this is what happened with him. So during that time, before his scandal broke, the U.S. government people, I guess because of the New York Times article, I got a little attention. So I started getting invited and getting calls, and I went to Washington, D.C., and I met with Richard Holbrooke, the AFPAC ambassador, and I was in his office, and I pretty much torpedoed purposely. I'm working in SWAT. I have a hospital there. I'm working in these places. And if I'm working with the U.S. government, then they're going to think that I'm, a spy with them. So I met with them. They thought I was meeting with them because they invited me, and that I would be asking them to fund me. But what I really was going there for was to tell them that you idiots should stop drone attacks because it's making more enemies mathematically than you're killing, and it's stupid what you're doing. So please stop that. And I said that to him in his office. and I never heard from the U.S. government again. I was also invited that same week by some Pakistani American groups to speak in front of Congress people about the Kerry Lugar bill. And I got in front of them and I said, listen, there was other NGOs that they invited, Pakistani American NGOs, and they invited me. So instead of getting up there and telling them what I'm doing and why they should help me, that was the whole point. I said, I don't want any of your money. Don't send me any money because you're just taking money from you is just going to taint my reputation in Pakistan and probably get me and my staff killed. So I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want your money. Just take it, keep hold of it, give it to all these other ones. And I said, but let me just give you a little advice. I came here really to give you a little advice. If you spend the money in Pakistan, the Kerry Lugar bill, the same way you've been spending money in Pakistan, then perhaps put it all in cash on the White House lawn, and I will spring for the lighter fluid and the matches, and we'll just burn it. And everybody's looking at me like I'm nuts. And so I said, hey, if I'm a Pakistani on the ground and I don't see anything tangible that I can point to that America did this for us or built this. Oh, I got a bag of atta with an American flag on it. What did that do for me? Fed me for a few days. So I'm saying that if a Pakistani who's just a village person, they hear about 7.5 billion coming to Pakistan and Kerry Lugar. If they don't see things change and things that evidence that money did some good, then if I was that person, I would rather to read in a newspaper that it was burned on the White House lawn. True. So that was my point to them. I walked out of there and I've never heard from anyone in the U.S. government.
So you're probably not liked for...
I don't trust the U.S. government. They've already proven to me, from the Iraq war to what they did to my friend, to some of the things about 9/11 that don't add up. And then this Israel thing that's going on now. America is funding a terrorist state. And if you say that, and I say that openly, well, you're a pariah. You're an anti-Semite. You hate Jews. They will do everything. You know what? If they had any merit to their arguments, they wouldn't have to resort to the dirty tricks of trying to call you names and trying to smear you and trying to blackball you and all the stuff that they're doing. They wouldn't have to do that if they actually had merit. What they have is money, power, and influence. And that's all they got, because what they're actually doing is committing war crimes, and they're blaming everything on the Palestinians. But behind the scenes, they're engineering things so that there would never be a two-state solution. So in public, the headline will be, oh, yes, Netanyahu came out and he's going to work with the Palestinian Authority. They're going to do a two-state solution. Everybody, it's peace. It's wonderful. Let's all hand out prizes and all that. But in the background, they created Hamas. They funded Hamas.
Todd, living here in Pakistan for such a long time, is there a message you want to give to your fellow Americans, or is there a message which can give maybe more clarity? What kind of country we are, what kind of people we are?
Well, I've been here 18 years. If Pakistan was such a horrible terrorist state, me running around the country for 18 years and all of these remote areas without any security, without even a pea shooter to defend myself with, just my medicines, my team, or the things we do, then how could I still be alive if they're so horrible people? So, my message to Americans and anyone in the West who has a bad impression of Islam or Pakistanis or Palestinians is, I would say that, think a little deeper, look a little harder. Because of social media, even Wikipedia, there's places where you can research things and you can find out and learn about things that they never tell you in the media. So in America, we're wonderful people. I'm against the policies of my government, and both sides are funded by these, Zionists and other corporates and people that want to keep the status quo the way it is because it's good for them. It's the people of America who are innocent, hardworking, beautiful people, but they're too trusting, and they've been manipulated by these guys who own all the media, who tell the narrative and the story and sell the fear that they want to sell so that they can keep getting away with what they're doing and nobody will wake up. But people are starting to wake up. But there's still a lot of Americans who just don't have a clue because they're too busy. They're trying to pay their mortgage and their car payment and the kids' school. And on the weekends, they just want to watch football and enjoy and relax a little bit because they're working so hard to pay all their bills. They don't have time to dig into the headlines. But the danger of that is if you don't, then they can keep getting away with things. They can keep getting away with lies. So I can tell you for sure, they've lied about Pakistan. They've lied about Palestine. They've lied about this part of the world. They've lied about Muslims. They have tried every dirty trick in the book to paint people here bad. And I'm telling you, they're no worse or better than people over there. We're all human beings and we're all the same. And but those of us who are in power and are psychopathic, we misuse that power if we're psychopathic, because psychopaths tend to get power because they will do anything to get it, and they'll step on anybody and hurt anybody in order to get it. The people who can handle power responsibly, they will never do those kinds of dirty tricks. So they end up not getting as powerful. That was kind of, I think that's the little program that Allah put into human life in order to test us. These all amount to us being tested now. So there's a lot of lies out there that are going on about this current conflict, and there's war crimes going on. And something historical happened this time. Israel, for the first time, before they would do their war crimes, but they would say, we try to not target civilians and we work and do everything. We're the most moral army. This time when this thing happened, the group that they funded and they started, Hamas, which they started, did this thing. And now they came out openly saying, we're going to do a siege, no food, no water. This is a population where half are babies and children. This is bombing homes and schools and hospitals, and knowing that people can't escape, and knowing what they're doing and how much damage humanitarian is going to cause. Hamas is 1.5% of the population of this 2.5 million people. So they're doing collective punishment. That isn't a war crime. They said openly. So they said openly they're going to do it. And then what's historic about that isn't just that. It's that Biden comes out with a terrible speech, the most unpresidential, disgusting thing I've ever heard a president from America ever say. We stand with Israel unconditionally. He should have said we stand with Israel. We also stand with the Palestinian people, and we're there for both of them, and we want to try to make peace. And we want to, please, Israel, calm down and don't do these war crimes. Let's handle this a different way. That would have been statesmanlike. That would have been leadership in the world. That would have been presidential. Instead, he went right along with the vengeance plan. That is the first time that's been openly. So that is a direct attack on the rule of law. Now, the president has done it and Israel has done it openly. Now, I don't care who you are. None of us have to follow the rule of law. The rule of law is dead now. There is no rule of law. It's only might is right. Mask is ripped off completely 100%. Now, don't talk to me because they're saying, well, it's justified because these people did this. Well, I said, that's the same logic Hamas used, that these people did this, so we had the right to go after civilians. So, it's the same. It's just that one side has more weapons. One side is the oppressor and one side is the victim that couldn't take it anymore and snapped after finally being pushed into a corner. So this is what's going on. And if the American people that are listening to this, that ever hear this, would please do some research online and dig a little bit deeper, and don't just suppose that what the government is telling you, that what either party, Democrats or Republicans, are telling you, what you're getting in the bought and paid for media, what you're getting from these talking heads that are paid a lot to lie and tell a story and weave a web of lies. There's other people out there that are honest, decent people that are telling the truth, and they have the evidence and they have the story that you need to hear and you need to see about Pakistan, about Palestine, about Kashmir. And then you'll start seeing, and eventually it'll be hard. It was hard for me to give up on knowing that America is not the world's most powerful democracy, but the world's most powerful hypocrisy. That was very hard for me because I grew up believing in America, but I believe in the American people, but they've been lied to. So what I want is for people to see this kind of message and don't believe what I say. Don't take what I say at face value. Go research. Go look at yourself. Read about the massacres of Palestinians that made October 7th look like a picnic compared to what they did to Palestinian villages during the Nakba. And learn about these things that you never will hear about on Fox News, CNN, or any of the networks, or any of the American networks. And if they do that, they will come. I'm just one of them. I'm just a regular guy. And I didn't even want to believe this stuff. But you know what? It's the truth.
It's the truth.
And people suffer. People here suffer and die and are demonized unfairly because of this kind of nonsense. While the top guys live a life of luxury, and everybody else under them they think are cockroaches. They don't care about American people. They don't care about anybody. They care about themselves and staying in power and doing whatever they want because they're psychopaths, and that's how psychopaths are. They don't have any empathy for anybody. So my message is, do whatever you want with me. Call me whatever name you want to call me. I don't even care anymore. You want to call me anti-Semite? I love Jews. I grew up with Jews. My management was Jews. My mother, before she died, her boss was one of the nicest person in the world, Jewish. Jewish people are wonderful, and thank God there's Jewish people that are around the world saying, not in our name. This is genocide. This is not going to happen. And they're the real Jews. The Zionists are just people who took over this cause and have used it to try to take over the world and try to harm the world. So if people just will research and research and research, they will find the answers and they will connect the dots.
Very sure. It's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming tonight here.
Thank you.
Todd, thank you for being here. I think you bring up a very valid point, and we now live in a time where people can do research. 20, 30 years ago, whatever you were told, whatever you heard in the news, it was almost impossible to find the truth. Now, if we just put in a little bit of time, a little bit of effort on the internet, we can find out what's really going on. There's videos, there's everything. So it's really up to us now what we do with this, what information we get and everything. So thank you for...
The world is beginning to wake up, but I hope we wake up fully before it's too late. We shouldn't wake up when it's too late to wake up and realize that, the world is completely on fire and going down. And then we realize what we've been through.
One of the things that scares me is there's this saying by Einstein, and it is, I don't know what weapons they're going to use in World War III, but in World War IV, they're going to use sticks and stones. So that is the danger that we live in today. And thank God for people like you who have really stepped out of your world and come into a completely different world and are doing things to help us, to help the world, and also spread a message of love and peace. Because deep down, that's in you, and that's the message that your mother gave you and instilled in you.
She did, absolutely.
And that was a wonderful story. Would love to have you again sometimes, and we can talk about your past and the musical influences. I wanted to talk about a lot of all of that, but we'll have to do it on another day.
Definitely.
So thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure, Todd.
My only wish is when I die that I pray to Allah that I will have a front row seat for Judgment Day to see all these guys at that time.
Inshallah.
Pay for their
justice deserved. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching our podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like, and share all of this. It helps us spread the message and bring in other guests. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.